The match at Eden Park was more than just another victory for the All Blacks. It was another powerful reminder of why the famous Auckland venue remains one of the most intimidating fortresses in world rugby. Entering the contest, much of the conversation centered on whether Ireland could finally become the team to end a remarkable unbeaten run stretching back more than 3 decades. Instead, it was Dave Rennie's side that produced another ruthless display, combining physical dominance with clinical finishing to secure a commanding 40-21 victory in the nation's championship. The result not only extended the All Blacks' extraordinary Eden Park record to 53 matches without defeat, including 51 victories and 2 draws since their last home loss against France in 1994, but also continued the impressive start to Dave Rennie's tenure as head coach. Since replacing Scott Robertson, Rennie has guided New Zealand to 3 victories from his opening 3 tests, and with an eagerly anticipated tour of South Africa on the horizon, confidence within the squad appears to be growing with every performance. From the opening whistle, the All Blacks looked determined to stamp their authority on the contest. Their intensity at the breakdown, accuracy in attack, and speed of execution immediately placed Ireland under enormous pressure. Every carry was aggressive, every defensive line moved with purpose, and every attacking opportunity seemed carefully calculated. The breakthrough finally arrived in the 14th minute when returning lock Patrick Tuipulotu produced one of the moments of the match. Spotting space in the defensive line after excellent work from fellow second-row partner Josh Lord, Patrick Tuipulotu accelerated through the gap with surprising pace before diving over for the opening try. The score reflected everything that had been building during the opening stages as the All Blacks controlled possession, dominated territory, and forced Ireland into repeated defensive efforts. The home supporters erupted as the scoreboard finally reflected the balance of play, and the confidence flowing through the black jerseys only continued to grow. Not long after the opening score, inspirational captain Ardie Savea once again demonstrated why he remains one of the finest back row forwards in world rugby. Packing down at the base of a scrum close to the line, Ardie Savea identified the smallest opening before exploding away with trademark acceleration to score his side's second try. The touchdown carried extra significance as it equaled the long-standing Eden Park try-scoring record of legendary winger Stu Wilson, with Savea registering his 9th test try at the famous ground. The crowd immediately recognized the achievement, applauding not only another superb finish, but also the consistency and longevity that Savea has displayed throughout his international career. Despite trailing by 2 converted tries, Ireland refused to disappear quietly. They gradually settled into the contest and finally found a breakthrough through powerful number 8 Jack Conan. Timing his run perfectly, Conan burst onto a well-delivered pass before crashing through the defensive line to score under pressure. For a brief moment, momentum appeared to shift. The visitors suddenly believed they had discovered weaknesses within the All Blacks' defensive structure, and many watching wondered whether Ireland could repeat the dramatic fightbacks that have become part of their recent history. However, any hopes of a sustained comeback were quickly crushed by a sequence of costly mistakes that the All Blacks punished with ruthless efficiency. Midway through the first half, center Stu McCloskey attempted an ambitious pass under heavy pressure, but instead of finding a teammate, the ball bounced harmlessly into open space. Waiting to capitalize was prolific winger Will Jordan, whose anticipation once again proved exceptional. Reacting quicker than anyone else, Jordan gathered possession cleanly before racing over for another New Zealand try, leaving the traveling Irish supporters stunned. Moments later, dynamic hooker Asafo Aumua added another score after sustained pressure close to the line, powering over defenders to extend the advantage even further. By halftime, the scoreboard read 28-7 in favor of the All Blacks, a reflection of their superior execution in both attack and defense. While Ireland had shown occasional flashes of quality, they had been punished for nearly every mistake they made, illustrating the fine margins that separate victory and defeat against the very best international sides. Whatever was said inside the Irish dressing room during the halftime interval appeared to have the desired effect because the visitors emerged with renewed energy after the restart. Just 4 minutes into the second half, towering lock Joe McCarthy crossed for an important try following sustained pressure near the New Zealand line. The score briefly reignited belief within the Irish camp and reminded everyone that the contest was far from over. Ireland increased their physicality around the breakdown, challenged more aggressively in the aerial contest, and finally began winning collisions that had largely belonged to the home side during the opening 40 minutes. Yet every time the visitors threatened to build genuine momentum, the All Blacks produced another decisive response. One of the defining moments arrived in the 55th minute through outstanding playmaker Damian McKenzie, who was later deservedly named man of the match. Throughout the contest, McKenzie orchestrated New Zealand's attack with intelligence, constantly varying his kicking game, exploiting defensive gaps, and creating opportunities for teammates. His try perfectly summed up his influence. After combining with runners on either side, Damian McKenzie accelerated through a narrow opening before finishing confidently to restore complete control for the hosts. It was another reminder of the unique attacking instincts that have made him one of the most dangerous backs in international rugby. To their credit, Ireland continued battling despite the growing deficit. Fullback Hugo Keenan crossed after the hour mark to reduce the margin once again, demonstrating excellent support play and determination to finish under pressure. That try briefly revived hopes that the visitors might somehow produce a remarkable comeback, but experienced teams understand precisely when to close matches out, and the All Blacks did exactly that. With fresh legs introduced from the bench, replacement center Anton Lienert-Brown delivered the final decisive blow. Timing his run perfectly and taking full advantage of quick hands from teammates, Lienert-Brown crossed for New Zealand's 6th try, effectively ending any remaining Irish resistance. The score highlighted the impressive depth available to Dave Rennie, whose replacements maintained the same intensity established by the starting 15. One of the most encouraging aspects for New Zealand supporters was not simply the victory itself but the balance throughout the performance. The forwards consistently generated front football, the scrum remained solid, the line-out functioned efficiently, and the defensive line repeatedly forced Ireland into rushed decisions. Behind them, the backs displayed creativity without sacrificing structure, constantly asking questions of the Irish defense through clever support lines and quick distribution. Equally impressive was the composure shown whenever Ireland threatened to reduce the deficit. Rather than panicking or forcing risky plays, the All Blacks calmly returned to their strengths, controlled possession, and patiently waited for further opportunities to appear. That maturity will undoubtedly please Dave Rennie, who has spoken repeatedly about building consistency as his side prepares for much tougher examinations later in the season. For Ireland, the defeat will naturally be disappointing, but there were still positive moments to build upon. Jack Conan, Joe McCarthy, and Hugo Keenan all produced important contributions, while the team's willingness to continue attacking despite trailing heavily reflected admirable character. Nevertheless, discipline, handling accuracy, and defensive organization will require significant improvement if they hope to challenge the leading nations consistently. Against a team as clinical as the All Blacks, even small errors quickly become points, and the visitors experienced exactly how unforgiving international rugby can be at the highest level. As for the unbeaten Eden Park record, another chapter has now been written into one of rugby's greatest traditions. For 32 years, countless outstanding teams, including world champions and Six Nations winners, have traveled to Auckland believing they could become the side to finally end the streak. Yet once again, the fortress stood firm. Every passing season seems to increase the pressure on visiting teams while simultaneously strengthening the confidence of the All Blacks whenever they take the field at the famous venue. Whether it is history, atmosphere, belief, or simply consistently outstanding performances, Eden Park continues to provide New Zealand with an advantage few stadiums anywhere in world sport can match. Attention now shifts toward an even greater challenge as Dave Rennie prepares his squad for a demanding tour of South Africa, where clashes against the reigning world champions promise to reveal just how far this developing all-black side has progressed. Victories over quality opposition have already generated optimism, but success away from home against the Springboks represents an entirely different examination. Still, if this commanding display against Ireland is any indication, New Zealand will travel with growing confidence, impressive momentum, and a squad beginning to embrace its new identity under Dave Rennie. The 40-21 victory was not merely another win. It was a statement that the All Blacks remain one of the most formidable forces in international rugby, that Eden Park continues to be rugby's ultimate fortress, and that under Dave Rennie, the next chapter of New Zealand rugby may already be gathering impressive momentum.